Thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Good morning. Let me get in focus here.
Yeah, get in the picture.
Yeah. You're about to listen to 2 hours of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We are not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, nor do either of us hold a doctorate degree in anything. Not that this would make any difference this day and age. Our opinion, of course.
Well, you can be an expert by saying you are.
Mm-hmm. We only ask that you personally and or corporally not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do we recommend that you act on them as if they are facts, although they might very well be.
You might stumble across a couple of those facts here
But
and there.
again, that's our opinion.
We do know some doctors and lawyers and other types of people.
And you're not required to listen to, act on, or repeat anything that you hear today, nor assume that they are facts, and that any information we present is by no means meant to harm or threaten anyone.
That is true.
George Orwell, shoo boy, author of the 1984 book.
Oh, yeah.
Predicted exactly what we're experiencing in the world today, and especially America. He wrote, "Who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past." And to that, I would add, he who controls the information controls it all. Hello, Twitter fans.
Hey, public school. It isn't public, government school.
Subject today is Christianity, separate and unequal.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, you're not going to believe what the Canadian justice system just did and what happens when you face the fiery furnace. By the way, we found a new book of the Bible. Yeah, you probably didn't hear about this one, but we just found it. We found it recently.
We dug it up, didn't we? In the
Yep.
excavation.
Yep. Guest and Canadian Bill Whatcott is a study in faith, courage, and humility. And I want to accentuate that humility. Don't miss his testimony today. In God's grace revealed, folks. Saturday morning, do radio at its finest with our hosts, moi, B.J. Edwards, and Mr. Anderson.
Good morning.
And today's guest leading the way, 2 hours of Christian talk radio with a sting. You can be found, just go to www.naturalfamilystrong.com. No, actually, you want to go to Last Call Radio.
Live.
Yeah, that's our website. You can go to our website too and sign our pledge.
You can go to this one.
Yep.
You won't find the show there, but you'll find a lot of other interesting things.
You sure will. And if you want to listen live, if you want to talk, 614-423-4220.
I guess I'll show that number for a minute.
Yep. If you just want to listen from your phone, that's 641-741-0816 or 605-475-0017. And if you get in early enough, we send out the link, the StreamYard links. If you want that, you can contact us and we'll send it to you. And please mute yourself if you do come in.
And you can be live on the radio with us. Well, live radio with a picture.
Yep. America was founded by Christians.
It was.
Yet it is now that very same church whose members are being harassed, ridiculed, and even arrested, and many jailed for their beliefs. Oh, I can't wait to talk to Bill. Hang in there. He'll be with us shortly. I read a great article which kind of led me to the genesis of today's show and what we're talking about. It was by Joe Kovacs, WorldNet Daily fame. And this is 12/8, and he's making a dire prediction for Christians. The warning comes from Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab.com. Are you on there, Mr. Anderson?
I have an account. I quite
to
honestly, I haven't visited it for a while.
I think I have the same situation, and I probably need to get back on that.
BJ's on there also.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a social media, free speech, social media site. And he says that in the coming days, believers in Jesus won't be able to get jobs, use money, open bank accounts, or travel by airplane, among other routine activities. I think I was rejected entry into a school board meeting recently. No, I know I was, because I was practicing my Christian religion. Yet, that's okay. It's okay to slam Christians. You know, Christianity is based on natural law. You know what else is based on natural law? Our Constitution. Yeah. But why natural law? I mean, what does that have to do with anything? Well, when you make laws, if they aren't consistent and if they aren't objective, you're going to have chaos and you're going to have disorder. Chaos and disorder. And natural law, like you throw the ball up in the air and it comes down, there's physical and there's spiritual. A child inherently naturally knows that they need a mother, one natural born female, biologically born female, and a father, biologically born. They have an inherent need for that. And when you remove that, guess what happens? There's issues. It creates a vacuum. And those vacuums can be filled by drugs, sex, hate, any of the bad things, strong things, because they have to be strong. And they always end up in a disaster. Go to our prison systems. Talk to the prisoners about their family life. You shouldn't be surprised about what you hear. But I digress. Back to the article. Torba, we're talking about the CEO of Gab, noted that recent Twitter action resulted in a jump in the number of Gab users. However, while this is great news for the Gab community, it's not great news for Christians. In fact, it's a sign of what is to come soon, which will be much worse than losing your Twitter account. He who controls the information. Torba says, I've long seen where things were headed for the simple reason that I've experienced it firsthand myself. Soon it won't just be Twitter. If you're a Christian, you won't be able to open a bank account. You won't be able to host a website on the internet. You won't be able to send emails. You won't be able to access the app stores. You won't be able to transact with money online or off. You won't be able to get a job. You won't be able to fly in an airplane. This is coming for all of us, folks. And it's already happening to many of us right now. His mention, Torba's, of not being able to engage in commerce is mentioned in the final book of the Bible concerning the mark of the beast. And no one can buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number of the beast representing the name. Or is that you won't be able to buy or sell without a mask, or without the shot, or without your passport? Could we rewrite Revelations a little bit? Torba goes on to say that something that isn't being said about the latest Twitter purge is that it is almost exclusively targeted at young, white Christian men. You remember our program when I talked about the most discriminated people in America is the white Christian male? Twitter just flipped a switch and made thousands of young Christians disappear from one of the world's top communication systems. No longer can they share the gospel of Jesus Christ to all nations on a platform where much of the world communicates daily That's a big problem. But that is only the surface level of what Christians have coming. Again, as a Christian, I was kicked off the neighborhood next door. You can't have a Christian view. That's what I was told. You can't. Oh, we have a separate room for you. Separate but unequal. We have a separate room for you. A separate place you can go. But for God's sakes, don't share your Christianity.
Is that like having a separate drinking fountain?
Sorba says the time has come, what he calls for lukewarm Christianity to be over with. We must prepare ourselves for the inevitable persecution that is to come. We must not fear, for we have a sovereign God who is in control. Boy, Bill, Whatcott, boy, are you going to ever hear this today with Bill? He has blessed us with the gifts to create, to build, and to reform. If these demons in Silicon Valley have their way, the only context that the name Jesus Christ will appear on the internet is to be mocked or scorned. Is that not already happening? Just like he is the rest of the popular culture. We can't let that happen. We can't let our brothers and sisters be persecuted, silenced, demonized, and destroyed by these wicked people, especially not our young people who are the future of Christendom, most of which have been already indoctrinated by our government-run schools that teach life has no meaning, morals are relative, man, not God, is the measure of all things, and the state is your daddy. There's that natural inclination, right? We just replace it with the state. How easy can that get? It'll cost you a little more money, but you're giving most of it to us anyway, the government anyway, right? We can't let our brothers and sisters be persecuted, silenced, demonized. He then continues, I know for certain that the one thing the oligarch regime fears is Jesus Christ. He is the only one who can stop them. Not any politician, not some billionaire, not me, not BJ, not Mr. Anderson, only Jesus. We can, must, and will lay the foundation of the new civilization, an unapologetically Christian civilization, a parallel Christian economy. Ooh. Christ is our king right now, and it's about time that we start acting like it. We need to stop sitting around moping and being stepped on by the enemy. God has given us the tools and talents to take dominion in this world, in his name, and make disciples of all nations, as we've been commanded. We can't do that if the enemy controls the media, the banks, the government, the tech companies, and everything else. If you don't have true free speech, the gospel can't be shared. China. It will, and already is, being labeled anti-Semitic hate speech and banned on big tech platforms, and even those who claim to be alt-tech platforms. All that remains is some watered-down, subverted version of the true gospel. It's an imitation gospel, the gospel of the regime, the gospel of Fauci, the gospel of Black Lives Matter, the gospel of Trump, the gospel, yes, and the gospel of Fox News, the gospel of CNN, the gospel of Zuckerberg. I went to a bookstore yesterday, and I had some tapes that I wanted to sell to them so they would share them and put them on their bookshelves. They wouldn't buy them from me. I offered to give it to them. Nope, they wouldn't take them. Seemingly, they don't have a market for anything like that. There's only one true gospel, and that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. Sounds like I'm preaching this morning, Mr. Anderson.
There you go.
We must see him for who he is, not who the world tells us he is. Jesus is not some hippie, Mr. Rogers, that our culture makes him out to be. He's a king of kings. He reigns. He rules. He flips over tables in the temple. He brought the temple down to this pile of ash in 70 AD, as he said he would. He scorns the den of vipers. He rebukes the synagogue of Satan. This is the Jesus I know and I worship. This is Sorbo, the president of Gab. This is the Jesus of Scripture. Christians better start getting to know him fast. We must not only drive the money changers out of the system of control in our society, rebuke them, scorn them, and flip over the tables. We must also build new systems and infrastructures to form a parallel Christian society that glorifies King Jesus forever and ever. Amen. On the first hour this morning, we're going to have a video that I've been promising you for the past couple of shows of a lady who's going to have to be a doctor, who's going to have to be in that parallel society. And there's many doctors and nurses and businessmen and educators that are going to have to be in that same thing, because there's no place for Christians in today's America. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. Stay tuned. Got a lot going on this morning. Going to read from COVID 3.
Last call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Line, Chicago, Illinois. In a powerful, emotional moment in the Jesse Smollett trial this past week, his defense team requested that a mirror be brought into the courtroom so Smollett could face his attackers for the first time since he was beaten up in the streets of Chicago. Smollett demanded to face his attackers to help him overcome the pain and trauma of the assault, and the judge obliged. He signaled a bailiff who brought in a tall mirror and held it up to Smollett. The actor wept as he looked at his attackers right in the eye, facing them man to man. Everyone deserves to face their attackers so they can get closure and a sense of justice. He's looking in a mirror, folks, said the presiding judge in the case. Juicy is no different. The facts of this case are complicated, but that doesn't change the fact that Mr. Smollett wants to see justice done and get a sense of peace that he hasn't felt since he brutally attacked himself that fatal night. Smollett looked at his attackers for a full minute before motioning to the judge, who had the mirror taken away. Sometimes the real attackers were inside you all along, said the emotional Smollett. He says confronting his attackers has brought him peace, and he hopes that they are convicted in this case, which they were, and they are him. But this isn't over with. The race baiters are going to take this thing and beat us up the side of the head again with us, and to continue to promote this paranoia of racism. Folks, racism is the ultimate conspiracy theory. And racism will end when we stop speaking it into existence, and not before then. Yes, Mr. Anderson, they did discover a new chapter of the Bible.
You did?
Yep, and I'm going to read out of that. It's COVID 3.
I thought it was okay. I thought you found it.
Well, our staff, our research staff found it, but I don't want to. I don't want.
We need you to replace Rush Limbaugh. You know that. He needs a replacement.
Yeah, he does. This guy.
Show is having trouble.
Those guys that are on there, I'm sorry. Bless their hearts. They just aren't getting it. Rush Limbaugh was an initiator. These two fellows are followers. They'll follow what Fox News says, and it's just like an echo chamber for Fox News.
Nothing new here.
Yeah, nothing new here, right?
Yeah.
And beat up on how many times can you say that Joe Biden is a bad president? How many times can you say that? How long can you say that?
Yeah, I don't know. People aren't hearing it.
Yeah, Joe Biden isn't. Yeah, Joe Biden isn't the problem, folks.
That's true.
We are. The U in USA, we are. I'm telling you, I am so blessed. We're running into so many people that have been awakened. And man, they're impressive. They really are. Some of them have been around for a while, like yours truly, but other ones have just got into it. But here's the key. This needs to be sustainable. We need to get it up to speed, but then we need to sustain it. And that's the problem. Remember the Tea Party? And then we started to have a little success, and what happened? Continual vigilance, right? Continual vigilance. And it doesn't mean that you stop after one victory. You ran one play, you got a first down, then you quit. Nah. COVID-3. This sounded familiar when I read it, Mr. Anderson, but I have to believe that this was
COVID, the book of COVID.
Yeah, verse 3.
Verse 3.
Yeah, chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
The king of America, on hearing that several of his subjects were purposely not serving the god of COVID and wanting to make an example of them, I'm reading from verse COVID 3, summoned 3 of them into his presence. He asked them, "Is it true that you are not serve the COVID gods, nor submit to the shot that the worship demands?" He continued, "Now, when you hear the sound of Pelosi, Schumer, Fauci, and other health experts issuing my health warning decrees, if you are willing to fall down and worship the mandatory immunization I made, very good. But if you do not take the shot and the booster, you'll be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace fueled by global warming. Then what God will able to rescue you from my hand?" The king said. The 3 subjects, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that sounds familiar, replied, "King Brandon-Knesser, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the mask images you have set up." Then King Brandon-Knesser became furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and quickly ordered that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual and commanded his BLM followers to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these maskless men, the 3, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent, the furnace so hot, that the flames of the fire killed the COVIDites who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the furnace. But the 3 did not perish. To which King Brandon-Knesser leaped up to his feet in amazement and asked a masked CNN reporter standing close by, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" Then the CNN scribe replied, "Certainly, your majesty." Then the king said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around the fire, unbound and unarmed. And the 4th looks like the Son of God." What's that, Donald Trump? Is that what you said, Mr. Anderson?
No. He's working on it, I hope.
Brandon-Knesser then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. And the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, the Vice President, and even the Minority Leader, standing 6 foot apart, of course, saw that the fire had not harmed these men, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their clothes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then King Brandon-Knesser said, "Praise be to God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued these servants. They trusted him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save this country." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the provinces of America. Morning, Biker Bell. We're having trouble streaming to your service.
We are. We're having a problem on the Minuteman site. I don't know what the problem is. I've tried to restart it.
Okay.
And StreamYard says they're having the problem. So I don't know. I will have to get our tech guys in on that.
Yep.
But you can still find us on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Our tech team.
Our tech team. We got to regroup again. Well, you know that enemy. He's relentless. He doesn't want us to expose him.
Yep.
I pray that's what we're doing.
We're going to get to that video, but before we do, there's something I want to note here. And this is kind of Babylon Beach, but I got a comment to make after it. As Russia appears poised to invade Ukraine, Biden has issued a forceful statement warning Putin that if he does, America will evacuate haphazardly and leave $86 billion in weapons behind. Listen, folks, for real this time, no joke. I ain't kidding around, said Biden to his doting news media. If Russia invades Ukraine, we will send a bunch of troops, and then we will immediately pull those troops out and leave all of our state-of-the-art weapons behind. I'm not even messing around, Jack. General Milley confirmed that this tactic was a proven battlefield strategy used in Afghanistan and has promised to use it without remorse should Russia ever cross the United States. If Russia invades, they will face the consequences, said General Milley, in the form of billions of dollars worth of rifles, machine guns, night vision goggles, Black Hawk helicopters, left just for them. I'm warning them, and by that I mean I will call Russia first and warn them, he said. Folks, Russia is using the media to get his way. He has no intention this time, right now, of invading Ukraine, but he's going to use that threat to get some concessions. And sadly, I think that those concessions will be had. Sadly. We need to use wisdom here, folks. I cannot believe that Joe Biden is sitting in the presidential office, the highest office in the land in the United States. I find that unbelievable. I think it says a lot about us in the USA.
It's a hard reality. Wake up in the morning and watch a few birds feed at the feeders, and pretty soon that ugly news comes on, and it's hard to grasp that.
How did that happen? How did that happen? Come on, folks.
Well,
God's name, how did that ever happen? Joe Biden, president of the United States, a career politician. And I don't think his IQ is any higher than mine. And I don't have a high IQ.
Does he even have an IQ?
Hey, careful, you're talking about me.
No. Oh, yeah. Joe, does Joe have a IQ?
No, he has a political IQ.
Hi, I'm the speechwriter for the President of the United States, Joe Biden. I know you're thinking Joe Biden makes a lot of gaffes. It must be frustrating to write his speeches, but you're wrong. Joe Biden is a brilliant orator. That's just how Zadu talk and type speeches, Jacko. We all know the classics. Next Snellnerent.
Donald Trump does pose an extra threat to this. It's not hypothetical.
My bus been wet.
My butt's been wet.
True international to pressure.
True international under pressure.
A lot of people laugh at these moments, but I don't get it. I mean, he nailed it. Didn't even rehearse or nothing. One take Biden, I call him. I really thought True International Pressure was going to throw him for a loop, but nope. He's speaking a word from his teeth hole, lickety splat. Sometimes I get writer's block, but I always find creative ways to keep the juices flowing. Classic Biden, every time. Never fails. There was one day I was working on a speech, I don't know about what, nothing important, something about jobs, who cares, when the muse struck me, much like how I imagine she struck Michelangelo when he made David. Corn Pop. Who was Corn Pop? What kind of dudes did he run? Was his razor clean or was it rusty? I just started writing. The words flowed from me like an arched stream to a urinal. Was Corn Pop a good dude? No. In fact, he was not. That's my Sgt. Pepper's.
If it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to...
It's one of mine.
Anyway.
Does it annoy me that Biden gets all the credit for my Brilla Smart Think writing? Maybe a little bit. But he's the prez, you know? I take pride that my writing has placed him in the ranks of other famous prez remarks 7 years ago. Ask not what your country can do for you. And because of me, lying dog-faced pony soldier. I'm sorry. That was something in my eye.
What about stuff like if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, or when he recently referred to someone as a Negro?
That's not me. Don't put that on me. That's all Biden. That's not me.
Back in here. When we come back, I'm going to talk about courage and what it takes in America today. And when you stand up for what is right, what happens? This is the American version. And coming up at the top.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
BJ Edwards along Mr. Anderson, your last call, 614-423-4220 if you'd like to join in the chatter. You know, here's an interesting thought that had not crossed my mind until I read this. But now that it's mentioned in this message, I guess my curiosity has been piqued. Has anyone ever seen any of the 6,000, 7,000 Americans that were rescued from Afghanistan? Or any of them united with their family or being interviewed? I haven't seen one. May have happened. I haven't seen any. Just a short note. And they're rather insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but it is a short note. Kabul airport. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? All right, I want to talk about courage. And this is a video that I think you need to listen to very carefully. Because these type of people, I don't want to call them heroes because they're doing what is right. But they're definitely convicted. And they definitely believe in righteousness. And this is in the medical community, which I'm really starting to be very curious about. Really curious. Here we go. Houston doctor.
Go ahead. Hello, I'm Mary Tally Bowden. Believe it or not, this is my first press conference. I ask you to be nice. I have four very protective boys that know how to access my Twitter account, and they have no filter. So please be nice. It's hard for me to believe that I'm sitting here about a week and a half ago. My frustrations came to a head and sent an email to my patients. And I'm a small practice. I'm a solo physician. I've been here for 2 years. I started off with the intention of just doing ear, nose, and throat and sleep medicine, and somehow stumbled into COVID. I was just responding to what my patients were asking me to do. They wanted to get tested because they didn't have access to testing. And I found a way to do that. And I never rationed testing. I provided access when access was hard to come by. So over the span of the pandemic, I've been open 7 days a week. I've tested over 80,000 people, and I have treated about 2,000 people. I'm a good doctor. I fight for my patients. I I treat my patients the way I would want myself treated. I've been on the other end of the patient-physician relationship. As a mom of 4 boys, I basically spent 5 years as a patient, 5 straight years of pregnancy. So I know what it's like. And when I opened this practice, my intention was to treat people the way I would want to be treated as a patient, and to treat people the way I would treat a loved one. And that is how I have treated my patients during COVID. So it was quite a surprise to me last Friday when I got a text message from the Houston Chronicle telling me that my hospital privileges have been suspended. It's not the way things like this are normally handled. I have very loose ties to Methodist. I only have privileges there in case I have a patient that is so sick that they need to be hospitalized. And I'm proud to say that because of my early and aggressive treatment for patients with COVID, I have not needed to admit anybody to Methodist. So I'm not quite sure why I became their target, although I think based on their history of being the first hospital in the country to mandate vaccines.
80,000 patients, 2,000 she's treated with COVID. And how many went into the hospital? And what's her current situation? They fired her?
For their employees, that they are using me as an example based on what they have read, which I have not sent to them, but I've sent to my patients, and I have vocalized on Twitter. But since when is that a reason to take away somebody's hospital privileges, try to take away their license? And I'm not saying Methodist is doing that, but there are groups that are targeting doctors like myself that are just simply trying to speak about what they are seeing. And I don't have research papers to back what I'm doing personally. I have tons of data. I have tons of clinical experience. And when I speak to my patients about what is going on, it's based on my clinical experience. And that should be good enough. And I'm not sure in this day and age, apparently it's not. It's astounding to me as a physician that I'm not entitled to my medical opinion. I think this is hopefully, this is not how I wanted to be. I would like to go back to my clinic and stop. I do not want to be in the media, and I do not appreciate the way Methodists handled this. I'm simply trying to help my patients.
So, doctor, why hold a press conference?
Because my name is being vilified. I have people leaving fake reviews on my website, all over the media. I have people calling me a sister of the devil and misconstruing my intentions. So I want to set the record straight. I don't feel like I'm getting fair coverage of my side of the story.
Now, whether she's telling the truth or not, and you're going to have to decide here. She is being vilified for having an opposing opinion. I wonder how those 2,000 patients who never went to the hospital feel about this. Again, this is a Houston doctor who was fired, I would imagine, because she wasn't following protocol, yet her patients didn't go to the hospital, according to her.
Dr. Bowman, I guess the issue from a Methodist standpoint, some of the people online, is that you're using ivermectin, which has not been proven effective by the FDA against treatment of COVID-19. I guess kind of explain to us why you have used it to treat patients.
Well, when I did a survey of all the patients that I've treated with monoclonal antibodies, and I asked them what medications they're taking. 30% of them said they are taking ivermectin, which is a large number of people.
There's the I word that you can't say. There's the I word, ivermectin.
I don't know how ivermectin has become a dirty word. It's a safe medication, and I would never give anything to anybody that I thought was going to hurt them. And I did deep research into whether or not I thought it was going to hurt them. So I stand by ivermectin. I have plenty of people who have taken it, and no one has had a serious reaction from ivermectin. Again, it's clinical experience.
So the 30% of the patients that you surveyed, are they the ones that you treated with ivermectin or others?
No, the 30% of the patients that I've treated with monoclonal antibodies all told me they were taking ivermectin at the same time.
Dr. Neat's next story. We'll go from there.
Continue doing what I'm doing.
Are you considering any kind of legal action against Methodist at this point?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Have you had any conversations with anybody at Methodist directly either?
No.
So all of this has happened through social media or what you
Well, they have sent me official letters, but there have been no conversations.
Do you plan to have it?
I'll have to ask my lawyer. I don't know. Well, Methodist has touted itself as the example that the rest of the country should follow in terms of vaccines. But why are they not sharing with us more data? Why do we not know how many breakthrough cases they have? Why do we not know how many patients who have been vaccinated have had side effects? Why do we not know a firm number of the patients in the hospital who are vaccinated? So if they want to be the leaders in COVID, then they need to share all the data. They also need to perhaps not vilify doctors who are challenging what the vaccine movement.
I have a question. So the people that came, you said you treated people for COVID, am I right? Okay, so that treatment ever included the vaccine, or it was just?
I tried to get the vaccine to my clinic when it first came out, and I could not get it because I was not a hospital. I basically felt like I was too small to be worthy, and so I just gave up. So no, I don't distribute the vaccine.
So I do take that. You wanted to give the vaccine out.
Yes, I was on board with it. I tried to get it, and they were just giving it out to the hospitals.
That's not the follow-up question. The follow-up question is, so 2,000 patients, none of them vaccinated, and none of them went to the hospital? Is that correct? No. They have to drive into their own narrative. Oh, well, don't you support vaccines? Sick. In my humble opinion, sick.
Nothing against the vaccine.
Nothing against the vaccine. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all for the vaccine, but I have nothing against it. There's certainly an important tool against this pandemic.
Did you take it as part of Methodist's requirements?
That is not something, I don't even ask my patients that, and I am offended that other people would ask me that. It's a HIPAA violation. It's a personal health information. Yes.
Dr. Bowden, on your website, you said you were on staff at Methodist as well as Memorial Hermann Hospital.
I have privileges at 2 surgery centers through Memorial Hermann.
Memorial Hermann.
Yeah.
They said you did not have any privileges at acute care.
At the hospital, no. The surgery centers.
So you said that you treat 30% of your patients, right? 30%, is that right? 30% of your patients were treated of this COVID? Is Is that what you said?
Yeah.
30%?
Wait, what?
30%
Of what?
of your patients were treated COVID, right? COVID? Is that what you said? 30%?
30% of the patients were treated for COVID. That's what he's trying to say.
Is that what you said, right?
I don't understand. No, I don't.
So you said 30% of the patients surveyed said that they use.
No, 30% of the patients that I treated with monoclonal antibodies were taking ivermectin at the same time. Not from me, just happened to be from other physicians.
Oh, but they were not from you.
No, well, not, I mean, maybe some of them were, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of these people just come to me because I allow easy access to monoclonal antibodies.
That's
Now,
the
you
one.
appears in the cohort case and associations fall down to the
About the other patients.
So I have a patient in Fort Worth at the Texas Hughley Hospital, 48-year-old man, family, father of 6, sheriff's deputy. He's been in the hospital for over a month. He's been on a ventilator for over a month. His wife reached out to me to try to have me prescribe ivermectin because she wanted to try everything she could to save her dying husband. I agreed, and then she had to have a lawyer get involved because the hospital refused. So I testified on behalf of my patient, and we won the case, and the hospital was told to grant me temporary privileges and do it quickly. And unfortunately, they decided to stall, and they waited until that Friday afternoon when I sent the email to my patients to tell me that they were denying my request for temporary privileges. And
Does this sound like somebody's
with-
afraid of something?
I have a clean record. I've never been sued, no complaints. So there was no clear reason why they would deny my privileges. The lawyers went back to the judge and they said, okay, well, we'll do the privileges, but with some modifications. We'll only grant you privileges to only administer ivermectin, and you have to come and do it yourself or have a nurse do it. No one on our staff will actually give the ivermectin. So I agreed, we did that. Apparently, and then we lined up a nurse to come give the ivermectin. The nurse came to the hospital and tried to get in, and apparently the hospital had issued an appeal, but this was not given to the patient's lawyer yet. So she thought she had her every right to be there, and the hospital called the police on the nurse and had her escorted out of the hospital because she thought she was following a court order. We could not clarify what was going on the next day because it was Veterans Day. The following day, we found out there was a stay on the order. Today, that appeal is being processed, so we're hoping to have an answer tonight or tomorrow morning. The patient is stable, but he's still on a ventilator.
And you said that because of the Texas Children's the hospital, because they were the first hospital to mandate vaccines, they were trying to make an example out of you. Can you please elaborate on what you meant by that?
I am a solo physician. I have a few thousand patients. I am a flea on the elephant of Methodists. I am not a threat to them. I don't quite understand why they need to single me out with this. They could have suspended my privileges very quietly. But instead, they took it straight to the media. It wouldn't be.
They're making an example out of her. And to my knowledge, she has not been sued for slander. Again, you have to judge for yourself whether this is true or false. But it's a very interesting presentation with a lawyer about what is going on in the systems. I've heard stories like this from other people. I don't have videos on it, but this is fine. This takes care of a lot of that. This is very similar to what I've heard. You can call that hearsay. But the question is, if you get COVID, what are you going to do? If your loved ones get COVID, what are you going to do? And what are physicians basing their treatments on? Are they basing it on medical expertise or upon fear of reprisal for doing something that the medical community, the FDA, the CDC has agreed to? Inconsistent information, which I can confirm. Again, very interesting, very interesting. We'll give you a 3 more minutes of this, and then we'll go to our 2-minute warning and then come back with Brother Bill.
Here right now, if it weren't for them taking it to the Houston Chronicle. So I think they're trying to make an example out of me. I think they're trying to show people, okay, if you speak your mind, if you dare challenge the vaccine agenda, then this is what happens to you. You stand in front of your clinic with 20 reporters and, they beat you down.
Do you have an idea how many patients have been treated?
A few hundred, probably.
And they're all okay?
They're all alive and well. I had one patient tell me she suffered temporary blurry vision, but she wanted to keep taking it nonetheless. But that's all I've had.
Like we told you this morning, you talked about what you want methods to now show the public.
Right.
What do you want them to show?
I want them to show all their data. Let's have some data transparency. If they are so confident in their position, let's see it all. Let's see complications, complaints. Let's see breakthrough cases. Let's see all their data.
Have you been contacted by Texas Medical Board in relation to anything that's gone on in Houston specifically?
Well, no, not Houston, but there is an online group targeting me, encouraging the public to report me to the medical board.
And have you received any correspondence directly from Texas Medical Board?
Yes, regarding the patient in Fort Worth.
What do you say to the FDA? Because obviously you know that only medicines that are approved by the FDA can be given to patients, but maybe there's a problem. I mean,
Ivermectin before I started prescribing ivermectin, I went to the original study where FDA approved it for human use, and I made sure to research the data and the safety. That was the first thing I did. So it is definitely an FDA-approved drug. There's a difference. It's an off-label use of an FDA-approved drug, which is done very commonly. If you look at the data, the safety data, if you do a literature review of ivermectin and try to find patients that have died from ivermectin overdose, I challenge you to do that.
Ma'am? How do you feel about
Ivermectin has been used for years, often an over-the-counter drug. But strangely enough, coincidentally enough, once the COVID pandemic hit the airways, ivermectin soon became prescribable, and you couldn't use it for COVID. Coincidental? But that's what she's saying.
this whole thing? How do you feel about this whole incident, this whole thing?
I mean, on the one hand, it's very stressful. On the other hand, I have been overwhelmed by the support that I've received. It is not what I expected. I have received support from Switzerland, Australia, all over the world. I think people are scared to speak up. And so it's been gratifying in that regard. I mean, I've created a lot of enemies, but I've made many more friends. And so, I I mean, I hope something good comes of it.
Are you a political doctor like the Methodists say?
Prior to COVID, I had absolutely no interest in politics. I have been sort of forced into an area of politics, but prior to COVID, I had zero interest in politics.
You know, folks, I'm going to stop the tape here. A lot of us are being forced into situations that we're not comfortable with. But because we haven't done anything, and we've seen it, we have seen it, because we haven't done anything, this is the result of that. For evil to flourish, good men and women only need do nothing. And that's what we've been doing. And I love the good doctor. I love what she's doing. It's obviously she's very uncomfortable with being in public and doing this, but she's been backed into a corner, and she has to do what she has to do. And that's what's happening to us. Unfortunately, God is backing us into a corner using COVID, but we are being backed into a corner. And now we're going to have to act. And we can't do this temporarily. This just can't be a one-shot deal. This has got to be continual, eternal vigilance. I think Jefferson mentioned something about that. I believe we got a 2-minute warning, and then we're going to go to break. And when we go back from break, we're going to bring Brother Bill in, Bill Whatcott from Canada. Some very interesting news.
History was made on today's date. Stay tuned for an American Minute with Bill Federer.
A 33-year-old conquistador landed in Mexico with 500 men. He was shocked to find the Aztecs taking prisoners of the weaker tribes, ripping their hearts out atop temples, and in a frenzy eating their bodies. This conquistador freed the prisoners, knocked down the idols, and erected crosses. His name was Hernando Cortez, and he died this day, December 2nd, 1547. His personal secretary wrote, Cortez told them of their blindness in worshiping many gods and making sacrifices of human blood. He told them of a single God, creator of heaven and earth, whom all men should worship and serve.
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. History was made on today's date. Stay tuned for an American Minute with Bill Federer.
President Thomas Jefferson, author of the phrase separation of church and state, asked Congress to ratify a treaty with the Kaskaskia Indians, which they did this day, December 3rd, 1803. It stated, whereas the greater part of said tribe have been baptized into the church, to which they are much attached, the United States will give annually for 7 years $100 toward the support of a priest, who will perform the duties of his office and instruct as many children as possible. The treaty concluded, the United States will further give the sum of $300 to assist said tribe in the erection of a church.
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer.
This is Ron Ross with Powerful Seniors. Seniors realize American history is being ignored and erased. The Bible compels us to do something about it. It says, teach what you've seen and heard to your children and grandchildren. Please share this video with your family and friends and encourage others to join Powerful Seniors.
I'm going to have to get Rod Pugh on our program. He's wrote a great article about seniors, us older folks, and how important we are. The value that we have in this society at this time is just incredible, because we've been there and done that. We've seen the change in America, an incredible change, an overnight change, if you will.
It's sad that, I don't know how you feel, but it seems like the youth just marginalizes us older guys. And even in the church, where are the elders? Where are the elders overshadowing these young pastors coming up in the skinny jeans and the fancy lights and, I don't know, their own version of the gospel, actually. Why are the older people put on the sidelines?
Good question. Well, we've allowed ourselves to be put on the sidelines.
It's the greatest resource that America has is, the baby boomers right now. We're called the baby boomers. We're dying off. but we have value our children don't know. We've seen and we have heard more truth than what they're getting.
Biker Bill says 6 black SUVs just pulled up outside. Hope you can stay tuned, Bill. Hey, when we come back, we're going to be talking with a special guest, Bill Whatcott. Stay tuned. Last Call Radio.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
And we are back, and we need to get our special guest in here. While we're waiting for Bill, while liberal late night comics are laughing about the man who set the Fox News American Christmas tree on fire in Manhattan, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damage and endangering people all around his arson, Tucker Carlson called out this and other arson attacks on American trees in 3 cities for what they are: hate crimes against Christians. Truth is hate to those that hate the truth. And what happened to the suspect who was caught running from the scene and charged with multiple crimes? Well, it's New York City, you know. So you know what happened. He's already been released on 0 bail and likely laughing at the toothless justice system. I can't help but wonder how funny these media apologists are for the radical and criminals who find it that they were torching symbols of other religions and then being released immediately to go do it again. Maybe someone should point out to them that according to the Pew Research Center, 79% of Black Americans and 77% of Hispanic Americans identify as Christians, compared to only 70% of white Americans. Maybe putting it into radical terms should help them recognize a hate crime when they see one. Thanks to our involuntary contributor, Mike Huckabee, for his thoughts on the aforementioned idea of Christian persecution, which, by the way, is a promise for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Again, we're waiting for our guest today. While we're waiting for a guest, I think we can go into the headline section because the headlines are interesting and they're also very telling. Very telling.
Headlines.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, we need to get something for that, don't we?
Yeah. We're heading for the lines.
U.S. officials tell Ukraine no NATO membership for at least a decade. Remember what I said about Putin and what he's doing? There will be no war with Russia, folks. This is just posturing, and we will fall for it. How about this? New Jersey bill will grant abused pets their own lawyers in court. Don't choke on your coffee there, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Australia has fallen. Is our nation next? You're witnessing the death of freedom in Australia and need to see these videos to see just how bad it is. This is from Natural News. And here's one of those I told you so. Fauci says effects of Omicron may be less severe. You know, if you really look at the Omicron and the lack of severity of it, again, it depends on your opinion about natural immunity, but if it has less side effects than the vax itself, in other words, very minor, and you believe natural immunity gives a better chance, then wow. Let's go on with the Omicron, right? Get everybody exposed to Omicron, and we can take care of this problem.
There you go.
Illinois, go ahead.
But, well, if you change the letters around, you get the real name of Omicron.
Really?
Yeah.
Show me.
Moronic.
How about this? Illinois bill proposes to strip unvaxxed of their health insurance. By the way, mental health is next on the hit list, kiddos.
Wait, Illinois did what again?
proposes bill to strip unvaxxed of their health insurance.
Well, that's worse than what Nevada did. I think it was Nevada that is charging higher rates to insured people for not being vaxxed. I think that has passed. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah, that's already happened as far as I heard the other day on the news. What news? I don't know.
And they're talking a lot about children and mental health. And that's going to be the next pandemic. They're already ramping that up. And if that doesn't work, they've got something else. And if that doesn't work, they've got something else. The idea here is to get power, take it from you, take it from the general public, and then use it, and then become a dictatorship, an oligarchy right now. And they're starting with children, taking over their mental health, and whammo, the real pandemic caused by the Fox plandemic opinion. Japan Health Ministry issues heart warning for Pfizer and Moderna COVID vaccines. These are headlines. By a 52-48 majority on Wednesday, the U.S. Senate voted to reverse the illegally mandated Biden regime kill shots for employees of private businesses. I don't see whether a executive order overrides Congress. We are a nation of laws, not executive orders, for those that are questioning my opinion. New York will require full vaccination to access restaurants, gyms, and entertainment, and anything else. Here's a nice one for you golf fans. Titleist is banning customers from personalizing golf balls with "Let's Go Brandon." Well, there's a business to get into. They can take it to our business, Mr. Anderson. They're not buying the rocks. We can have printing on golf balls being done for them.
There you go.
12-year-old boy, but they allow a message that say "Kill Trump." A 12-year-old boy charged with murder and fatal shooting of 11-year-old. Mourning others say these are kids. They should have been playing in a sandbox somewhere. Hold that thought. George Soros. I remember reading an article about him some time ago and how he dealt with other countries and basically lowered their ability to live, lowered their productivity, and then swoops in and sells that country high. And that is exactly what George is trying to do to America, being helped by a lot of greedy folks, in my humble opinion. George Soros plowed $3 million of dark money into BLM activists. Divide and conquer, right? Now, I know I got Don on listening, okay? But Don, here's the deal. Here's the real deal. He can't do what he's doing unless he destroys what first? He has to destroy the family. And that, my friends, is the root of the problems. Just 18% of U.S. households are what we refer to in America as nuclear families, with a married couple and children, down from 40% since 1970, and the lowest since 1959. We got a problem here with my camera?
I was wondering if this is our guest down here.
Okay. All righty. We'll bring you on in a minute, Bill.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't see him. Do I have him down there? No. That's Scott and Christy. No.
Okay.
That's Mike. Nope. I don't know what happened to Bill. We'll give Bill a call during the break. I'll give him a call during the break and see where he is. Married children couple down from 40%. That's down from 40%. In other words, it's 18% U.S. households are nuclear families, one man, one woman, children, etc. Down from 40% since 1970. And the lowest since 1959. The Census Bureau count showed that 17.8% of the United States' 130 million household featured married parents with children under the age of 18. That's only down from 18.6% from last year, but down much more significantly, 40% in 1970. There's currently just 23.1 million American homes with those nuclear families, which is the fewest since 1959. The reason given by the drop include the pandemic, delaying marriage, and continued decline in birth rate. Why are they delaying? Why are they delaying getting married? What's marriage going to do? Why are they delaying from having children? What are children going to do for me, right? Isn't that what you hear? Children have to do something for me. Marriage has to do something for me. It's all about me, 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 me. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You go from the basics, the housing, the food, up to self-actualization. In America, we're at self-actualization.
We got Bill.
We got him? Okay. We're at self-actualization. Bill, hang in there with us. The number of homes in America with a traditional nuclear family of a married couple with children is now the lowest since 1959. The Census Bureau count showed that 17.8% of the United States, 130 million households featured married parents and children under the age of 18. That's a pandemic. That's only down from 18.6% last year. In other words, the trend is to go down. Now, I want to make a note at this point. I highly recommend housing the term natural family, not natural family. As you can see, at this rate, the definition of nuclear will soon be changing.
Did you mean to bring on the doctor?
No, I didn't. No, I did not. I don't know. Okay.
Got me back.
At the rate, the nuclear family would be the state daddy, where you just have a child, which incidentally would be a result of the government offering incentives for women to get pregnant, pop out a child and turn it over to the rightful owner, the government, and then go about your business with no strings attached and no worries about what child can do for you. This is critical, folks. As goes the family, so goes the nation. As goes the family, so goes the church. You can't have churches, and churches are an issue this day and age. You can't have a church if you have broken families in it. The family is the foundation. It is the first institution that our Creator established for the benefit of man. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring Brother Bill in, Bill Whatcott from Canada, who just had his day in court, and some interesting results.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
We have as our guest today Bill Whatcott from Canada, who I don't want to get into the result, but about 3 or 4 years ago, Bill, you were taken to court, or you were accused of something, or was it longer than that?
It depends on, it isn't a straightforward journey. It started as a $104 million lawsuit, and that was over 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was being sued for $104 million because I gave gospel flyers to homosexuals. It was actually a class action lawsuit is what it was. They wanted to, I guess, sue me and everyone who ever helped me in any way, right up to a court. And they announced it on Parliament Hill, which is like announcing it in your White House. They announced that anyone who gave me so much as a glass of water was going to be on the hook for $100 million in damages. It was absurd, but it kind of worked. It showed me who my real friends were, because a few ran for the hills, and I never heard from them since. But anyways, that thing fizzled out in 2018.
Did you get some new friends, Bill?
Pardon?
Did you get some new friends to replace those old friends?
Oh, I did actually. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. God was good. There's some Christians a small number who run towards the fire, and those are the ones you want. So no, God was really good to me that way. And then I guess when the lawsuit kind of fell in on itself, the homosexuals were deluded. Keep in mind, they're prayed. It's a parade, guys running around with dog collars and floats and whatever. And for whatever reason, yeah, whatever reason, they cannot balance their budget with a $19 million cash infusion from the federal government, provincial government, and municipal government, and then big banks and various woke corporations.
Bill, we have a
I
picture up of the parade of you and a
That's
gentleman
me.
walking beside
Yeah,
you.
that's me and my zombie tutu handing
Now,
out gospel
which
flyers.
one of these two people are you going to take the court first, you folks? Which one of these two people would you take the court?
Yeah, really.
Amazing. Go ahead, Bill. I
Yeah.
apologize.
So, anyways, that picture you're looking at takes in, to my understanding, $19 million a year, and for some reason, it's on the verge of bankruptcy. So, these guys can't put that stunt on for 19 million a year and balance the books. And because of that, I guess they thought there's no way I could infiltrate their parade for less than $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought I had some big American right-wing conspiracy backing me up, and they were going to uncover you guys and sue you all for $100 million. Now the problem is I pulled my stunt on $4,000, and 2,000 of that was working on a homosexual movie set. I worked for this union called Teamsters in the movies, and they asked me to do parking lot security for this movie, and I didn't know it was a gay movie until I got there. But anyways, in my world, I don't hate homosexuals, and I think they have a right to not have things stolen out of their cars. And I would certainly object to partaking in any aspect of the scene. Like, I would not participate on the set, but stealing is a problem, and protecting everyone, whether they're good or evil, from stealing is biblical in my view. So I was in the parking lot of this movie set for 6 weeks, and what I decided to do, I was getting paid really good money. It was a unionized job, $25 an hour, is I actually used it for my zombie gospel stunt. So, it was a very interesting 6 weeks. The name of the movie was When We Rise. It was a pretty small budget. I was also on Supergirl and some garbage movies like that are, I think, $250 million. This thing was 9 million and it flopped. Homosexual movies tend to flop. Even Brokeback Mountain was a flop. Nobody really wants to look at homosexuals, but the media pumps these things as if they're amazing. I think Brokeback had something like 10 Academy Awards, and nobody really wanted to go see it, even with all the pumping that it got. Well, this movie was a flop, but I used it. So if they were going to sue someone, they would have had to sue the gay movie, because I was there for 6 weeks and I used all that money to pay for airplane tickets for my Christian activists who were broke. And then I went to Value Village and bought our rainbow tutus there. I don't know if you guys have Value Village. It's like a thrift store. Do you have that in the States?
I haven't been looking for rainbow tutus, so I wouldn't know whether we have those or not, Bill.
No, but do you have like stores where you can get secondhand sneakers and
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. It's secondhand stuff. So anyway,
I can't believe somebody would buy that to begin with. Go.
Rainbow tutus? Hey, man, if it's to bring the gospel, St. Paul said, I'll be all things to all people that I can save some.
Okay, all right.
And I should also let your viewers know, I did apply to march in the parade as an openly Christian man. Yeah. And I was rejected. So I was put in the closet. Now, when I got rejected as an openly Christian man, then I applied to be a gay zombie cannabis consumer, and I was accepted. So like St. Paul, yeah. If I was marching in blue jeans, with a nice collar shirt and a gospel sign, they would not have allowed me in their parade. But as a gay zombie in a rainbow tutu, they allowed me in. And then I could freely share the gospel. Of course, they did not know us sharing the gospel in their parade until it was all over. So yeah. So anyways, the rainbow tutu was part of the outfit, and we had 3,000 zombie safe sex packages. Now, these zombie safe sex packages had the testimony of Walt Hare, a former transgender. He's an American who lived as a woman for 8 years and then rejected that lie and accepted Christ and reclaimed his manhood. Even though he's physically mutilated, God was merciful to him and gave him a wife, and he's a married man now, fully restored spiritually. And and God has done a good work in his life. And then I had, I think, a testimony of Dennis Jernigan, who is a promiscuous homosexual who found Christ. And then I had the medical risks of the lifestyle. And then I had the gospel on how you could be saved. So anyways, these guys didn't realize that I worked on a homosexual movie set for 6 weeks and used that money to infiltrate their parade. And then I had a few Christians who gave like $50 here and there when they heard what I was up to. But by and large, half of the money came from the gay movie set. So that's what I did with the 6 weeks that I was there. And it was the most bizarre movie I ever saw. They actually set the thing up in what's known as the Vancouver East Side. And to give Americans an idea what the Vancouver East Side is a massive government-funded version of the Watts district of LA, or, the Detroit South Side. It's basically a ghetto. It probably gets more money than the American ghettos. I think it's something like 10 blocks, and it consumes $1.3 billion of tax money a year. It's supposed to be a massive success story. They're claiming that it saves lives from opioid addiction. Prior to coming to Christ, I was a drug dealer in the Vancouver East Side. And back in the 1980s, it didn't get a dime of government money that I know of, certainly not for drug use. And I had to be discreet because if I got caught, I would have went to jail, and rightfully so. Well, back in those days, I think you had about a dozen overdoses a year. Then the government decided to help things. They decided that, drug use should be decriminalized down there for all intents and purposes, and that the government should give you free needles and free crack pipes to do drugs safely, and give you a subsidized place to live so that you're not homeless as you blow all your money on dope.
And since pay with good intentions, go ahead.
Yeah, well, that sure helped. The overdose rate went from 12 or so when I was a drug dealer to 1,200 a year, so it's 1,000-fold increase. And I also work down there in sanitation. The streets are full of feces, drug addicts just defecating in the back alleys, needles laying everywhere. Parks that I used to be able to go to as a kid are now off limits to kids because there's needles strewn all over the place and addicts laying all, everywhere. It's just a mess. So they
San
put this
Francisco.
movie. Pardon?
Like San Francisco today. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, just horrible. You got it. And this is where this movie set was. So I'm protecting the cars from getting broken into because everything that isn't nailed down there and doesn't have security looking at it gets stolen. And I had these homosexuals talking to me. This one lesbian told me she was an actor. In actual fact, she was an extra. And she was telling me that it was a homophobic movie set. And I really wanted to share the gospel with her. And she had no idea that she's talking to a guy that's going to be infiltrating the homosexual parade with the gospel. And I thought, well, if I share the gospel with her, I'll be a 1-second wonder here, even though I could discern she really needed it. So I was praying, and the only thing I could say to her was, well, that must be really tough. And I'm thinking, here's a lesbian complaining to Bill Whatcott that a homosexual movie is homophobic. They had no idea who I actually was there for 6 weeks. Everybody loved me. They thought I was the most congenial security guard going. I really didn't say anything, to affirm what they were doing. I just sort of told them, well, I really sympathize with you because they all had complaints. I said, oh, that must be really tough. Although in my head, I thought, how could that be tough except your sin is making your life miserable? You're actually getting paid, you're getting free food, and still you're unhappy. And then, this group called the Vancouver East Side Society, it's kind of an innocuous sounding name. It was actually a gaggle of drug dealers and hookers and addicts and whatever else, criminals. They decided to storm the movie set. Now that alone made it worth working there for free, but I was getting $25 an hour for this monstrosity. And they were storming the movie set. And when you stop a movie from going for even 10 minutes, that's a lot of money. And these guys, because I was a security guard, I was so low on the totem pole that nobody was really paying attention to me. And they were negotiating with the locations manager saying, and they really had no negotiation. We paid, like I had no sympathy for the movie, but the movie paid the city a permit. They had the right to use that back alley. And these guys were saying, if you could get this argument, you displace the indigenous. By indigenous, half of them were white and black. And there was a few natives in the mix, but it was mostly white drug addicts, a good number of black ones, and a few natives. It was really a multiracial gaggle of welfare cases. They were arguing you displace the indigenous drug dealers and sex trade workers of the Vancouver East Side. Now, number one, these drug dealers and sex trade workers had no historical claim to this land. They were there courtesy of taxpayers like me. They're living in these harm reduction apartments subsidized by the government. They got no claim to this. Half of them come from other parts of the country.
But they want more. If you give it that away, Bill, they always want more. And I want to get you back to the parade as soon as we can, because.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just giving a little bit of context. What I'm just telling people is it's crazy. They actually paid off this group because the police wouldn't arrest them. I was a part of all that, being security. And I used that money to infiltrate their parade. Now, my budget was a few broke Christians. I had to buy their economy class airline tickets. I had to buy some rainbow tutus. I had to buy some 8.5 by 11 paper. And then I got these heat sealers, and I just got Christian volunteers to make my fake condom packages, the zombie safe sex packages that contained the gospel. And I pulled the whole thing on $4,000. And the whole time I was just living in a little apartment. I had no assets to speak of. The homosexuals, when they realized that I got into the parade and used their apparatus, their $19 million apparatus, to bring the gospel to 3,000 people in about 1 hour, they were outraged, and they figured it was $1 million mega church that helped me do this. So they went on this massive lawsuit. They probably spent $500,000. They were flying around the country, interrogating people, trying to get information on my funding sources. They ordered me to give up the names of my supporters on pain of a contempt of court and indefinite jail time. Even though some of my supporters fled and left me hanging, it was just a matter of my Christian principles that, I would not betray their names. So I was prepared to stay in jail forever. And they realized it, and they didn't really want to make that kind of martyr out of me. And then they eventually, I guess after discovery, realized that I was broke and had nothing. So they eventually conceded that their lawsuit was a complete waste of time, and they dropped it. Then the last act of the Liberal government, which was also named as a victim in this $104 million lawsuit. The Prime Minister of Canada was named as a victim. The Premier of Ontario was named as a victim. The Liberal Party of Canada, the governing party, was named as a victim in my lawsuit. So this is absurd. This is something you'd expect out of Zimbabwe or Afghanistan.
Germany. Go ahead.
Yeah, Nazi Germany. Although they had too much pride to call themselves victims. They just beat you up. These guys were whining. They were whining that my words hurt them. Nazis, they aren't the best people, but they were tough. They actually fought in the Eastern Front and didn't complain too much. These were whiners. This Christian group hurt their feelings, and they're going to sue us for $104 million. And that thing fizzled. Then, just in spite, after 2 years, they launched a Canada-wide arrest warrant and charged me with a hate crime. Normally, Canada-wide arrest warrants are bank robbery, murder, something pretty serious like that. They were actually looking for me in 3 provinces. They weren't. I wasn't running from them, but they didn't know where I was, and they couldn't seem to find me. So they were showing up at homes of family members I didn't talk to for a couple of years, and showing up at homes of some of my friends. I don't even know how they knew who they were. Showing up at former addresses that I rented. And when I realized what they were doing, I just went and turned myself in after I finished this shift up north driving bus. I was duly fired out of my job, so that sucked. And I was extradited to Ontario. So anyways, that went on for 3 years. They were dropping cases in the name of COVID. And finally, this thing went to trial. And after a month-long trial, the judge said, after struggling with the issues, he concluded that there really wasn't any hate or calls to violence, but it was so obnoxious that it was borderline speech anyways. And then in the end, I was acquitted.
Okay,
So,
hang in there with us. I want to get a little more detail on that. I think I have a gentleman by the name of I think he's the governor of Maine, Mike Heath. That wants,
Mike Heath.
yeah,
I know him.
Talk with you. Yeah, hang on. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Brother Bill Whatcott. Oh man,
The future governor of.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Bill, you have to speak it into existence. You have to be
Yeah,
positive. You have to be positive, right?
I think
Anyway,
that's what Schuler said. Positive. We're gonna name Mike Heath as governor of Maine.
There you go. Bill Whatcott. This is over a period of 5 years, right?
6 almost now.
6 years. Okay. You attended a gay pride parade.
Yeah.
And purposely sharing the love, the truth, and hope of Jesus Christ, regardless of the consequences. You did a very unique thing. You gave them what they probably believed to be condoms. And when they opened them up,
they got gospel.
They got the gospel. And shame on you, brother. Shame on you.
Some of them,
go ahead.
Some of them, I kid you not, opened them up with their boyfriends at 2 a.m. And I got to hear it. I got to hear it. They were outraged.
You're incredible. You're incredible.
Yeah.
Governor Heath, you got a word or two for us? And by the way, I'll be eternal grateful for you introducing me to Bill. I really, really appreciate it. He is an incredible Christian.
I can't remember how I met Bill, but oh my goodness. I was so thrilled yesterday. You probably heard my shout all the way out there on the west coast of Canada when I saw what the judge decided. Congratulations.
I wasn't expecting it.
I really thought you might be sleeping in prison tonight.
Yeah, me too. If I had $100 to bet.
Yeah. Born in a Graveyard, Bill Whatcott. That's how best autobiography I've ever read, JR. It was written by Bill Whatcott. If you haven't read it, get a copy of it. Born in a Graveyard. And I've felt for years, Bill, that you are at the top of the heap of Christians who understand what we have to do at an essential level in addressing what's happening globally now, and that is that we've got to bring a sense of humor back to it. And you've done that. You've done that so brilliantly.
You Christians are so serious. So serious. I'm telling you.
The message in that zombie safe sex package was a very serious message.
Yes.
There was a lot of truth in it. But I really used their own nonsense and turned it into humor, like the idea that they're accepting of everyone. Well, I had an idea when I asked to march as an openly Christian man and share the gospel and dangers of homosexuality that I wasn't going to get accepted. And then I didn't know for sure, but I thought there's a good chance if I reapply under a fake name, the Gay Zombies Cannabis Consumers Association, that they would, and indeed they did. So they actually helped me with my humorous stunt.
Well, and I spent 20 years wearing a suit and tie and blow drying my hair and registered as a lobbyist here in Maine, arguing in serious tones over sexual orientation. And one aspect that you haven't mentioned, which I love to hear you talk about, is the fact that in order to establish your bona fides to get into the parade, you created a Facebook group. And you invented a sexual orientation.
That's right. I'm glad you brought this up. I kind of was studying Soviet communism and the KGB in specific. And the one thing, I don't admire them, they're evil, but they did have a tenacity and they had a long-term vision. And I'm not smart enough to, infiltrate and subvert an entire bank. But I thought I could infiltrate and subvert this homosexual pride parade. And indeed I did. These homosexuals, many of them felt they knew me for years because I had this group going for 2 years. I actually got followers. All of it was absurd. I actually made the persona. I first called him Bill Clinton, and then I just lost my nerve and changed it to Robert Clinton, and nobody noticed the name change. But yeah, Robert Clinton was on disability. He was a gay man, and he wasn't, and he was only gay when he wasn't smoking pot. when he smoked pot, he actually changed his sexual orientation to straight. And so I developed this term, high sexual. And over the course of 2 years, I was posting on different Church Street forums. Church Street is like the Castro district of San Francisco. I was inviting myself to Facebook groups of gay bars, claiming that I'm straight when I smoke pot, and that I'm gay when I'm sober. And that was all accepted. Nobody ever met me in person, but they all knew me. And I would get into different arguments and debates and make nonsense, and people just got used to me being around. So one day I announced on Facebook that, and I got 300 followers. I announced that I'm coming into the Gay Pride Parade. And then, I was like screaming that I was getting evicted. Just hold on here. I'll turn that off. Someone else probably wants an interview, but Christians come first. So anyways, what I did is I made up this landlord, and I said we were really nice to our landlord because we'd share our tokes with him and get him high. And I had this trans woman spouse, and then I said, my landlord is not my friend because I had to use my rent to fly to Pride, and he doesn't understand, and I'm getting evicted. And then I was getting all this sympathy as everyone's thinking that I'm getting evicted from my house because I'm coming to Gay Pride, and I said I had to buy an airplane ticket with my trans wife or whatever the heck nonsense it was. And people just assume this, right? So when I actually arrived with my Christian commandos, everyone goes, "Oh, hey, there's Robert Clinton. Hey, nice to meet you. I saw you on this homosexual discussion, And I go, "Oh yeah, well, it's nice to meet you too." And they had no idea that I just inserted myself into their scene virtually, and nobody was checking my security because they all knew me for 2 years. And I was just able, the cops were looking for us, and I was photo opping with the cops, as these zombie safe sex packages were getting opened and people were freaking out.
Bill, I suspect that Mark Zuckerberg didn't have your opportunity to pull this kind of a stunt when he changed the name of Facebook to Meta, and he's promised to create an unlimited number of digital worlds for us to immerse ourselves in. It's interesting.
Well,
I mean, you kind of turned that whole idea on its head too by doing this.
Yeah, praise the Lord. I used a lot of wicked things to bring the gospel to a lot of unchurched people.
Yeah, and that's what Christianity in the West lacks something that I think it is a hallmark of Christianity, and that is imagination and creativity and clarity and a sense of humor. What happened to us? It's awful where we are. And
there is a frustrating scripture, and I would encourage you to accept it. And it bugs me, but it's there, and it's God's word. The children of mammon are wiser than the children of light. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was clever enough to subvert the Toronto Pride Parade and obviously create years of havoc. All of them doing it. They could have ignored me, and nothing much would have came out of it, except maybe 1 or 2 people getting saved, which is significant enough. But these guys can take down banks. They can take down governments. They are better at strategizing than we are. They can't actually run anything and make it beautiful. They got total control of the Vancouver East Side. It's a sewer. They got control of the Castro district in San Francisco. It's a sewer. But they can take those things over and they can run circles around us in strategy. And the children of mammon are wiser than the children of light. I just see that played out time and again.
That's changing, Bill. That's one of the reasons I'm running for governor, and I'm not. I put away the suit and tie and the blow dried hair, and I plan on speaking with clarity and imagination in 2022. I will face a couple elections. One is a primary, the other is the general. And our governor, Bill, you get a kick out of this, yesterday announced that Maine's hospital, well, 2 days ago, she announced that she's sending in the National Guard to replace all the nurses. You're a nurse, I know.
She's former nurse. Yeah.
She's sending soldiers in to fill the empty spots created by her mandatory vax campaign in the state of Maine.
That's
Many nurses quit because they won't get the jab. So she's sending in soldiers, weekend warriors, to fill the slots of nurses in Maine. That was 3 days ago.
Yeah, I imagine they're medics, but they don't have they don't have the theory in the background. This is nuts.
What I'm
so
hearing,
so so
what I'm
2
hearing
days 2 days ago, Bill, she announced that Maine's hospitals are full of unvaccinated people. So
Really?
because I'm running for governor, I know some people who are well placed in Maine's healthcare industry. I made a couple phone calls and found out that's a bald-faced lie.
It is. It's the same as here. We now have a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and keep in mind, Canadians are culturally more submissive than Americans. And keep in mind that our vaccine mandates have been much more draconian. And because of the coercion, and because Canadians are what's the word I'm looking for? Because I don't want to compliment us. It's not a compliment. We're a very pliable lot. That's the word, pliable. We got an almost 90% vaccine. I think 86% of Ontario is double vaxxed. So there's not a whole lot of people left for this fifth wave, but they're saying that we have the worst outbreak ever now because of the unvaccinated. And it's like only 14% of the population is unvaccinated. How did this happen? You know, it makes no sense. Obviously, the worst outbreak should have been when nobody was vaccinated. It's just horrible. It's just horrible.
Gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank my co-host today, Bill Whatcott and Mike Heath, soon to be for helping me relax. I don't have to ask questions. Mike, you're doing a great job. I should let you continue. But I'm going to kick you off.
All right.
HeathForGovernor.com.
Yeah.
I'd vote
Thanks,
for you.
JR. God bless you, Bill Whatcott. You're the best.
Let's say that because they're liable,
God bless you
to
too.
get mail-in voters. And you're liable to be, doesn't make any difference where you're coming from.
I can actually identify as a resident of Maine. I feel like I always was one.
There you go.
If Bruce Jenner is a woman, I'm a resident of Maine.
You're welcome in Maine anytime, Bill Whatcott.
Mike, should I allow your wife on, Mike?
Gosh, I don't know where she is. She's around here somewhere.
Yes, she's listening. I should ask her what she thinks about all this. Mike Heath, Governor Heath, Maine. Good luck to you, brother. Godspeed.
Thanks, JR.
Thanks for coming in today.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Well, Bill, I don't know where to go with this interview because Mike Heath, governor, just took over and managed it. I guess that's a good sign, though, isn't it?
I enjoyed it.
I know.
I like hearing from him.
I love him. I can't thank him enough for introducing me to you. I've got a gentleman here. I don't know whether the question's for you or not. Biker Bill is from Michigan, Detroit area. And he said he had to leave a church because they made a married gay man a deacon.
Oh dear. Sorry to hear that.
Ask him what he would do. I still love my church, but felt I had no choice but to leave. That's a tough.
Yeah, I fear that, and people got to realize I looked after homosexuals for, I guess 6 years of my nursing career out of 11. I was in a gay district. And many of them I befriended. They're not all of them have bad personalities. Some of them have a lot of good qualities, but they're in this sin, just like many of us. And sin corrupts. That's what the scripture teaches. You can certainly be friends with a homosexual, but you can't have them in a position in your church. I believe that if a church ordains a homosexual, they're not a Christian church. They've strayed too far. And in fact, every church I know in Canada that is pro-LGBT, they've pretty much rejected the gospel, even in their doctrines. They will say Jesus isn't the only way. And I'd be surprised if your church really proclaims the gospel, if they're allowing homosexuals to participate in an active ministry. So I would probably separate myself from that church. And to the extent that people are willing, you can maintain contacts in it. Yeah.
One of the things that I don't understand, and we're going to take a break here shortly, and maybe you can comment after the break, is that a church is for Christians, is it not?
No, it's for sinners to call us to repent.
I
It's
think
for
I think
everyone.
I thought it was a
I'm not saying
gathering.
everybody should be in leadership, but Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye who are labored and heavy laden." He was preaching to the unsaved. That's why I preach to the homosexual pride parade.
Mhm.
The church is open to everyone, but not everyone's a member.
We'll have this discussion at a later date because this could get extended a little bit. Because
Sure.
you and I are on a different page with regards to that, which is great. I'd love to have it. Maybe we'll talk off air maybe in the next 6 months after you get freed up from all.
Sure.
You're gonna be heavy duty. There are a lot of people wanting your time and attention, and I really.
I'll be a 3-day wonder, I think, which is fine with me.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Hey, when we come back from break, I want you to talk a little bit. Mike touched on the subject of COVID, and Canada is pretty aggressive about this. And I want you to talk about the general life in Canada today, and basically what we're going to be talking about is what life's going to be like in the U.S. if we don't do anything here.
Yeah.
BJ Edwards Long, Mr. Anderson, this is your last call with our guest, Bill Whatcott.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last call with BJ Edwards.
Well, that woke me up. On the news, I heard the other day, kind of tailgating with Mike, if you will. Hospitals are full, and because they're so full, we're going to have to bring the National Guard in.
Mm.
We all know that is. I'm sorry. We all believe that might be a little stretching of the truth. Is that the nice way to say that, Bill?
If you're like Canada, half of you know it's a bold-faced lie, and the other half is bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some Americans that have bought into this, sadly, who trust their news.
Well, I'm going to some of the stores, and I live in a liberal area, and it's they really, because the state House of Representatives and Senate basically passed a law which kind of nixed the governor's intention to lock us all down. You really don't have to be that cautious about wearing a mask or getting the vaccine. But I go into stores in my liberal area, and I'm saying 90% of the people are still wearing masks, which is scary for me. There's no laws. They're just wearing the mask because they've bought the line, the one-sided conversation that we've been having about this whole issue. And we played a video of a doctor who got fired because she basically was offering alternative treatments that didn't go with the FDA, the government's approved, and they're inconsistent. So in Canada, what is it like daily life with regards to COVID? How draconian is it, or is it draconian?
Yeah, it is. The whole country now. Certain parts were a little more locked down than others, but by and large, the whole country has a vaccine passport of some sort or another. Boy, I wish it was 90% here. When I was going to court, I was sitting on this what's called Go Transit.
Going to ask you, did you wear a mask in court?
The judge told me to put one on. I struggled with it. Of course, an 18 months incarceration was hanging in the balance.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I did is I met him halfway, and this shows the absurdity of it. For the entirety of my trial, I wore the mask under my nose. Yeah. So I was still wearing. I still had fresh air. I think the judge was very cognizant that it was under my nose because everyone else had it over their face, including my lawyers, over their nose. But he finally gave up at that point. And then as soon as I left the court, and I'm sure the judge heard it, in the hallways, I took the thing off my face as soon as I walked out of the courtroom. And of course, it's a government building, right? You have to wear the mask in the hallways. You have to wear it on the escalator. You have to wear it in the cafeteria. The Crown prosecutor would come down to the cafeteria. Yeah, that's Toronto. I'd be sitting in the cafeteria without a mask, and she would look right at me. And then we'd come into court. And at one point, what I did with my mask is I tied it into a bow tie behind my head, and I cut the bottom I cut the bottom, like I cut the bottom strings. So I had this flap, this little flap hanging over my face. And then my judge or my lawyer looked at me because he was getting concerned. He goes, "Would you like a proper mask?" And I said, "No, this is a proper one. I can breathe out of my mouth and my nose." And but yeah, I wasn't gonna take it right off my face because I knew the judge put himself in a corner. He ordered me to put it on, and that would simply mean being in jail. And I thought,
I understand.
Not hanging as a flap, like a tire flap, then I'm breathing air.
You take it as far as you can still be effective, Bill, is basically what we do. Okay.
They could live with me in jail. Nobody would be crying.
And you don't know until you try. And that's one of the keys here. A lot of people still wear the mask because they're afraid. And I can remember walking into Costco recently, and the guy said to me, "Sir, you need to wear a mask." And I said, "I'm good," and walked by him.
Yeah.
And nothing was said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's mostly how the stores go here. I did have a Walmart where they sent 2 security guards after me and a manager. And they cornered me. That was last year, Christmas. They cornered me in the pet food aisle and surrounded me. And then the manager had a garbage pick, like you see those guys in Texas on the chain gang picking garbage on the side of the highway, one of those things. He had a garbage pick with a face diaper at the end of it. And I guess he thought I was Chernobyl. And he actually pointed that face diaper at the tip of the garbage pick right at my chest and told me I had to put that on right then and there, or they were calling the police and they're going to have me arrested in their store. And once again, that was, it was 9:30 at night. I had 90% of my shopping done by now. I just took the thing and stuck it under my nose. And it's pretty funny when it's under your nose and you got both nostrils breathing fresh air and COVID, if that's what you believe. It seems these guys are fine with that. They left me alone. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. When I was in Toronto, to give you an idea of the level of compliance in this country, 90% would be really good if it was 1 out of 10. But I sat on what was called a GO Transit bus, and this is a government-funded bus. So you guys have it. It's like Greyhound with government funding. And they abuse you. They literally abuse you on this bus. I sat on that thing for 45 minutes going to court every day for a month. And there's about 40 passengers on average on the thing. They all wear face diapers, everyone, the bus driver, the passengers, 100% for a month. I was the only one who sat on that bus for a month without a face diaper. Nobody really argued with me much, but they play a message every 60 seconds. And I got it memorized because I've heard it thousands of times. It's forever etched in my mind as a trauma, a PTSD, if you will. It goes like this. Even if you're fully vaccinated, you must wear a mask. Failure to wear a mask or failure to wear one properly may result in a fine. And the fine is pretty draconian. It's $2,000. That is what I was risking. Ooh. That message plays every minute from 1 a.m. till midnight. Every minute, that stupid thing. And so I heard that 45 times as I'm going to court because I was on that bus for 45 minutes and I'd be sitting there without a mask. And one time there's a little schizophrenic lady, and no fault of hers. She's mentally ill and she's harmless. But every time that message would go, even if you're fully vaccinated, you must wear a mask. She would raise her finger and point at me. And then everybody in the bus would kind of look at me, but nobody would really say anything. And I'd just sit there without my mask. So psychologically, the pressure to put that stupid thing on. But, after a few hours, I just said the heck with it. And I never wore it. And I got comfortable not wearing it, But that is it. And I sat in the in the Eaton Center. I looked at maybe 500 people, and 1 out of 500 was not wearing a mask. So that is the level of compliance in a mall. I sat there and counted 500 people. One person was without a mask besides myself.
Got about 2 more minutes, Bill. What's next for you?
I'm 54 years old. I think somebody else has to take up the mantle. I don't see who, but God can raise it. I'll certainly write. I probably need to do another book, that Born in a Graveyard, that Governor Heath talked about is a little bit dated. A lot more has happened since then. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit old to do the really crazy stuff. I know I'm not going to wear a mask, so one day I might be able to tell you about my $2,000 fine. I don't want this experimental vaccine. I know in my circles a couple who have died, and I know several who've been injured. And in Canada's media, it is relentless that this thing is safe and that it's all misinformation, that people are sick. I know people in my own circles who are sick. So I know it's not safe. Where this is going, I don't know. I think this is more scary in some ways than the LGBT fascism. This seems to be international communism, and we're slipping into a tyranny. And other than the grace of God, I don't have an easy answer on how to take our culture back.
Well, it is up to his people. It is up to his people, and your courage and your example is very encouraging to others. It is to me, and your attitude. The one thing that I've really noticed about you is your humility, and I've had at-length conversations with you, and you don't take credit for anything. It's just you're doing what you need to be doing and what you should be doing. And that doesn't make you a hero. That just makes you a good follower of Jesus Christ, which I love. I mean, that's very simplistic and very true and very exemplary, if you will.
Well, I had enough sin in my life that I know I'm not doing it on my own. So, it really is a testimony to God's goodness. It really is.
Both of us. Bill Whatcott, any contact information you want to share with the folks?
Sure. My phone number, and I put it on my gay pride flyer, so I might as well share it with your listeners. Area code 365-336-7346. And my email is Bill Whatcott, all one word, lowercase, BILLWHATCOTT @gmail.com.
Okay. And you're on Gab?
I am on Gab. You can follow me there. I took myself off everything else. I like Gab. Andrew Torba, the CEO, is a Christian, and you really do have actual free speech there. Apparently, Trump offered to come on if they would engage in some censorship, and they did without Trump, which is quite amazing, quite courageous.
Wow. That's a lot to say. A lot to say. And yes, sir.
That's
yes,
a lot to say. Yeah. I would vote for Trump today over Justin, but I have had concerns about him. That's another topic for another day.
I get that. I get
Yeah.
that. We'll take that up later too.
Yeah.
Godspeed, brother. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Thanks for your insight. Thanks for your sense of humor, and thanks for your loyalty to the Word and Jesus Christ. God bless you.
Amen.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me on your show.
It's our
God
pleasure.
bless you.
Already.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Bill is very unique. Very unique. There's our friend there, Art. And Bill, very unique. Mass Resistance, by the way, did a great job of covering this. Mass Resistance, and we thank them for their efforts. I thank all of you for your efforts. There's groups locally that we're really, really, really excited about working with. And what's happening here, I feel positive about it. And again, I wanted to expose you to, give you a little northern exposure to a great brother, Bill Whatcott. Bill Whatcott. Hey, we thanks for listening today. Hope you have a great weekend, and look forward to talking with you all next week. In the meantime, Godspeed. God protect your families. And the family is the key, folks. As goes the family, so goes the nation. And that's one biologically born man, one biologically born woman, and a lifelong committed monogamous relationship with their children, natural or adopted. www.naturalfamilystrong.com. We're signing off. Thanks for listening today. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Join us next week for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.